there was this scene of carnage with bodies and other terrible things. The most blood I've ever seen in any event. And I've been in this business for 32 years. This is not something you see in regular policing, what we witnessed that day. But there was also a strange feeling to the street because there was paper and things that had been dropped on the street, and it was windy and they were blowing around. It was almost like tumbleweeds in a deserted city. There was nobody on scene but uniformed police officers. And so we made decisions quickly. One was get our uniformed cops back, establish a perimeter, and lock this area down so the EOD, the bomb squad, can go through all these packages. There were literally hundreds of backpacks and packages and pocketbooks that were dropped by people who were running away. When you have a lot of packages in a scene like this, you go up with a very sharp knife and you start to slice open the bag on the side so that you don't trigger any device by opening the top of it. But if it is a device, it's a very, very dangerous thing to be doing. And Chris had just done a dozen of those, and he was putting his bomb gear on. And I remember being struck by what he was being asked to do. You know, these guys do this all the time, but this was overwhelming. This was a battle scene, and he was being sent into it, and it was a big moment for me in understanding the enormity of what we were taking on. You know, I'm going to talk tomorrow at the graduation about a continuing sense of a life learning experience, and so everything that I had learned up to that point here in Lowell, working in the narcotics unit, doing drug raids, and running around with Kenny and Billy Taylor and Frank Waterman and all those guys, you know, fighting drug wars back in the 80s and 90s. And the various operations that we've done here in the city, all of that experience comes into play when you end up in a situation like this. And so there was all of that. I knew that we needed video. I knew that we needed to clear the packages. I knew that we needed command and control. And we had some challenges. The establishment of the command post worked perfectly, flawlessly, and everybody came there. We had to set up security on the command post because we had hundreds of reporters, and every news outlet in the nation began to dispatch people to Boston when this happened. Controlling them, keeping them in a place where we could access them when we needed to talk to them, but also where they wouldn't be in the way of the operation was critically important. The cell phones broke down almost immediately. Just like in 9/11, we had absolutely no cell service anywhere in the city. And the reason for that was volume. No one, there was a rumor around that the police had shut the cell phones down for some reason. I don't even know how to do that. That didn't happen. But anyway, we couldn't talk to anyone. So our only means of communication were our portable radios and landlines. So the Westin Hotel was kind enough to get one landline into the room. There was a raft of federal and state agents standing in line trying to report back to their bosses to this one telephone. We went back to the 1960s, actually, in communications. But we were able to talk to our officers on the street. And we established a good perimeter that went for about 25 blocks. And the businesses were very cooperative in getting people out of there. First of all, the businesses on Boylston Street had let people shelter inside their business. And then as things started to calm down, we were able to get the back doors open into the alleys, and they were able to go out without coming back into the hot zone that was out front. Everybody worked very well with us. The crime scene was started and went for 7 days. The investigation started right that very minute and continued aggressively for the next 48 hours. And as I said in this piece, we set up a special location in this warehouse, an undisclosed location that we set up with federal and state and local agents. He was able to escape on Memorial Drive. at the mobile station. He went there for refuge. And it was a good thing that he did, because he would not have survived that if he hadn't got away. As soon as we got the information that this incident had happened, we felt that it was tied into the Collier homicide. And although no one could say definitively that these were the suspects in the bombing, we were highly suspicious of the activity. So we started to dispatch officers into Cambridge. We had them at the Collier homicide scene. And as they were there, information started to come in on the whereabouts of the car through some technical information that we were able to access. And a Watertown officer spotted the car. And I talked to him, the shootout started, and I got the call again from the chief, who said, Commissioner, we're in a shootout with these guys, and they're throwing bombs at us. And I said, what? He said, I'm telling you, they're throwing bombs at us. So I jumped up. I tried to go to sleep. It was about 12 o'clock at night, and I was trying to get some sleep. And I jumped out of bed, and I grabbed my keys, and I realized that I had left my gun at the office. So I said to my wife, Jane, I don't have my gun. My son's a police officer. Does Eddie have a gun? And Jane said, I think he does. I said, well, go up and get it. So my poor wife ran upstairs and got my gun, and I went out, because there was literally a running gun battle going on at that particular time. These are not things that American police get involved in. These are very, very unique and strange situations, and tragic situations, because Officer Donahue Dick Donahue, by the way, which was ironic to me when I first heard the name. He did a heroic job in getting involved in this incredible shooting incident that occurred, where the suspects were loading and reloading guns and firing and throwing improvised explosive devices at the officers. It was remarkable. It was really remarkable. He did such an incredible job in letting us know that guy was there, and they were on top of him very, very quickly. We asked people to shelter in place. They listened to us. Even that guy, he listened to us. He didn't even go out and try to have a cigarette. He just stayed in the house, which I thought was remarkable. There were 26.2 miles that expands to 55 miles of a perimeter when you look at that whole race. You cannot lock that. We do not have enough police officers in Massachusetts to lock down a 55-mile perimeter. Can't be done. These are soft targets. We learned that we needed to rotate personnel. At the scene of the arrest, I had been up for 40 hours. When I was doing those interviews with the cameras, I really didn't know what I was saying. anything could have come out of my mouth at that particular time. I managed to get through it. We had a presidential visit on Thursday, and President Obama was incredible. He came here to the city to console us, and we needed that. And it was an incredible moment when he went to the cathedral and said what he said about the city of Boston. But he was also good to his word. Within an hour of the incident happening, I was on the telephone with Bob Mueller, the FBI director, and with Eric Holder, the Attorney General. The president called the mayor and told the mayor that any asset of the federal government was his. And I will tell you that as we locked down those neighborhoods in Watertown, and we needed things, we got them immediately. We got tanks, armored personnel carriers from the military. We had a lead that the suspects were in Dartmouth, and we needed to get our SWAT teams to Dartmouth. Within 15 minutes, they landed 3 Black Hawk helicopters to pick up our SWAT teams and transport them to Dartmouth. Literally, everything that the federal government, state government, local government could do, we did to find these guys. And ultimately, we were able to run them down. A few things helped. The communication systems that we have, prior existing relationships with the federal, state, and local offices who all know each other, extensive critical incident training that included Operation Urban Shield, which is funded by the Department of Homeland Security. That forced us to think the unthinkable. It made me think that if something like this ever happened to me, I would have to call Rick Deloria and I would have to call Tim Holmes. It also helped the medical personnel because they looked at major events like that and how to deal with them. I also did a lot of travel overseas, some of it when I was here in Lowell, although I don't think the city manager knew at the time. That she was wrong, so. I went to London in 2005 after the two bombings, and I met with Ian Blair, who was the commissioner of the London Metropolitan Police, and he brought out a bomb, a backpack bomb. They had rebuilt it. He put it on the conference table, and he let us all look at it and see how it worked. He also brought in the video that was so important to them solving that case. And those things that I learned from Ian Blair helped. The visits that I made to Israel and Jordan this past summer, talking to people who have dealt with terrorism in a very real way, helped. All of these things came together. And the other story that I don't have time to get into here is the importance of social media. We were able to correct mistakes that the media made through our Twitter and Facebook accounts. The story about the Saudi national that had been arrested was not true. There was a suspect, we looked at him, we discounted him within the first 12 hours. But a persistent rumor existed. Some people on social media started to look at photos in the crowd and picked out two innocent young men who just happened to be there for no reason but to enjoy the marathon. And they had their pictures posted all over the internet and on the front page of the New York Post, saying that they were the suspects in the bombing. I suspect that the Post will have some problems with that. And that's true, and that's appropriate. But finally, I just want to say one thing. Everybody that I talk to, the new word with the policy people in Washington is, well, what is the narrative on this? It's like, the narrative is what thinking out of the box was to the 1980s, now it's the narrative. Everybody wants to know what the narrative is, right? And there's one thing that shines through here as the important point from my perspective. The Chancellor spoke about my commitment to community policing. We chased these guys down because the public saw the picture. We caught this guy because the public saw the picture. We worked closely with the public. And incredible things happened within that blast zone. That blast happened, and within a half an hour, men with rifles walked into the lobby of the Lennox Hotel and told the manager that his hotel was closed and his guests would have to leave. And then they took over the hotel. The manager was very kind and opened the place up to us. Within one day, that place had no guests. It was top to bottom federal agents, Boston Police, and Mass State Police. We had every boardroom inside the place. And who support this university have that same foresight and commitment to the community. So I applaud you all. Thank you.